Welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast, where we take you inside our gym, Crossfit Palm Beach, each week. It's here that we are creating new superhumans every day, transforming people's lives, helping them reach a level of health they never knew possible. We strive to answer your most burning questions on fitness, health, nutrition, training, motivation, mindset, lifestyle, and more. If you have a question, please email us at info@crossfitpalmbeach.com. You can also learn more on our blog, livingsuperhuman.com. And if you have a moment, we'd love a review from you on iTunes. All right, it's time. Let's stop being average and start living superhuman. Hey guys, welcome to the Living Superhuman Fitness Podcast. My name is Andrew Frezza, and I am joined by some special guests today. We have my wife, Nikki Frezza, Hi. My sister-in-law, Shannon Frezza, and then one of our members, Rachel Moseni, here as well. And today's a special episode. We're going to be doing the pregnancy podcast, and we're going to be talking about how to stay fit during and after pregnancy. So I don't know why I'm on this episode, but I am here. I'm going to try to guide the conversation. But these moms have a lot of experience of working out during their pregnancies, trying to recover from it. So we're going to be talking about all the aspects that go along with it. And before we get into it, just a little disclaimer, we're not doctors, we aren't health professionals in the pregnancy realm. So this is definitely a situation where you have your doctor, your primary care physician. You need to put their advice above all else. So if they're telling you to back off and not work out, then you should definitely follow that advice. And we're really kind of working under the assumption that you've gotten the clear, you're good to go, and that you're in the midst of a healthy pregnancy. All right, so we're gonna start, we're just gonna kind of go around here and get an idea of where these different moms are at and how they did with their pregnancies, how many kids they have, etc. So, Nikki, if you can go ahead and start, tell us a little bit about what you did with this pregnancy.
I'm Nikki, and my baby Cooper is 8 months old. I was doing a mix of beach fit and CrossFit, and I did about 3 to 4 times a week. Although I'm not gonna lie, there were definitely times when I did much less, but I tried to keep that throughout.
Cool. And how long up until the birth of Cooper did you work out? Do you remember when your last workout was?
I remember it. It was about 10 days before, and I wanted to continue, but I did lunges, and that was just, it was a little much.
Cool. Shannon?
Hi, I have 2 kids. Dylan is almost 4, and Ariel is 1.5. And I worked out, I did CrossFit through both pregnancies. With Dylan, I did it till like 3 days before I delivered him, which I actually probably would have done it the day I delivered him, but it was Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and then he was out December 27th. So, and then with Ariel, I worked out, she was born at 39 weeks, so I think I stopped at 38 weeks because my doctor told me to let's try to keep her in there. And I came about 4 to 5 times a week on average, and it was great.
With Dylan, I think you did 12 Days of Christmas. Like, when was that?
I did 12 Days of Christmas wide. Gosh, wasn't that like a couple days before Christmas Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I had a checkup the day after Christmas, and I was like ready to go. She's like, you gotta go to the hospital now. And then he came out the next morning or the next afternoon.
All right, Rachel?
My name's Rachel. I actually have 3 children. My daughter Olivia, she's 8 years old. My son Ian, who's 4, soon to be 5 in November. And then Eve, she turned 6 months today. Aww. So my story is a little different than the 2 of these ladies. I did not work out the first 2 pregnancies. So it was definitely a different experience this 3rd time around. I was coming to CrossFit exclusively for probably anywhere from 6 to 7 days a week prior to getting pregnant, and then during the pregnancy, I would say I maintained maybe 5 to 7 days a week, and I did work out all the way I went through the open. So that last open workout, I did that Friday, and then I delivered on Wednesday. And I took it easy over the weekend because I did a bunch of double unders, and I remember having some swelling. So I said, okay, we'll just take it easy, and that was it.
Cool. Wow. Awesome. So first thing I want to talk about is how does the working out have to adjust with the different trimesters that you guys go through? You know, how, like first, second, third, how did you guys feel that was different when you came into the gym and have to adjust for it?
For me, that first trimester was like survival mode.
Yes.
Like if
Worse.
I could make it in, just coming through the doors was like a success. And it was hard because you're going from working out regularly to now feeling crappy, feeling so tired, and just not motivated. And then on top of that, you know, we have this like competitive environment, and now you think, okay, well, I've got a baby growing inside of me. I can't, you know, push as hard as I was. So that was really tough. The second trimester was a lot easier, and then the third trimester, it was just mainly like moving, just, you know, still not focused on, you know, you don't want to hit any PRs, but just getting a good sweat.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think like the hardest part about the beginning is that nobody knows you're pregnant yet. Like it's a secret, but you like are not performing well in the gym because you can't breathe and you're so tired. It's just like crazy how quickly that happens to you. And you do get some energy back in the second trimester, but you're like, people knew the second time that I was pregnant before I even said anything, just because they could tell. So I didn't like that part.
Exactly. I mean, I remember vividly that first trimester, I took my pregnancy test, and within a couple of days, I felt it. I remember doing a workout running, and I just couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. And I knew right then at that moment for the first trimester, I had to stop. I could not push myself to the point where I wanted to puke anymore. I just had to keep moving just to get a healthy workout. But I knew that I couldn't push my body to that point. I didn't want to hurt the baby. And so I stepped back in that aspect. And then second trimester, it got a little better. But I did decrease the weights as far as the barbell. I remember maybe only doing up to, I think it was 75% of the 1 rep max, if that. And third trimester, again, it was just kind of going through the movements. At that point, I was pretty modified. I wasn't even using the barbell, I think, for most lifts. A lot of kettlebells, dumbbells. And I think the most important thing, though, for any pregnant woman doing CrossFit or whatever it may be, is just the important thing is to listen to your body. I think there were some days where I felt I could maybe push a little harder, and some days I couldn't. And even if I did that movement the day before, the next day I might not been able to do it. And I think that was really the important thing, is to just listen to your body and know when you needed to stop or just take a water break.
It definitely seems like, from what I've seen, the second trimester you find a little bit of a groove, as you know.
Spot, as I like to call it.
But that first trimester can be tough because it's so new, it's so different. Did you guys all deal with like morning sickness and throwing up, and did you feel that in workouts?
Yes.
Nikki had it the worst.
Yeah, I would rush to the bathroom sometimes. But it's not something you could see coming, so you couldn't really say, oh, I'm not going to work out today because I'm going to be sick. You just kind of, you know, deal with it, and I mean, all the coaches were awesome about it. Everyone knew to just, you know, like check in with me after, make sure I was fine, and then most of the time I would just, you know, continue much lighter.
And at what point do you tell the coaches? Because I know from our standpoint, a lot of times we do, like with Shannon, we'll notice stuff before it's time, and then usually that's the day that someone will tell us, because they see we've noticed, and they figured it's just best to tell. But what point do you guys feel like it's right for the coaches to know?
I mean, I told them way before anyone else, probably about 6 or 8 weeks in, just because I wanted them to know not to push me to do certain things that they might normally, you know, or I don't want to say push, but encourage.
Yeah.
You know.
For me, I think I actually waited, probably because of my age this time around. I was nervous, as it's my third child. I'm 37 years old, so I waited until about that first trimester, although I did tell a couple coaches. I remember crying hysterically to Coach Whitney about being pregnant because I finally just felt like I was getting my groove in CrossFit. I was actually involved in the competitors a lot, the class, the extra work, and here I was pregnant, and I was just at first like, oh no, here we go again. But in the end, it's great. I wouldn't take it back, but it probably would be best to tell the coaches in the beginning immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, they do
and they're
have
great about
modifications
keeping
for
it
everything.
quiet.
Exactly.
Like, they won't say anything.
Exactly. But I think most people, might notice, like, for instance, you, depending what type of athlete you are, and then it really does take a toll on you, so.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the workout specifics. There's definitely adjustments that need to be made along the way with specific exercises, how you approach the workouts. Some of the more obvious things, I think, from just like a safety issue would be like, you don't want to be climbing ropes and doing box jumps or handstand push-ups if that's something you're not really comfortable with, where something could potentially go wrong, something slips, and you put yourself and the baby at risk. What were some other modifications you guys remember doing that were helpful for different movements in the gym?
I think using dumbbells, like when you had that belly, just for clean movements. Like I remember I hated doing cleans or snatches just because the barbell was it was so awkward.
It is, and then it kind of, when you have to compensate for your belly, you get so used to doing that then when you come back, you're like totally messed up.
Yeah.
And you have to fix everything.
You have to relearn
back
everything.
again because you're compensating for your belly and it's not there anymore.
Yeah, and you're creating bad habits.
So I think doing things differently once your belly's really there is good. And I mean, you can I think people think you can't do like core stuff, and I was able to do a lot of stuff. Obviously no sit-ups after a certain point, but a lot of like plank work. I like to do like the twists with the barbell, how we do those. Russian twists. So I think it's good. It's good to keep working on your core, even though you feel like it's useless. It's really not useless. Like it is helping.
Exactly. Wait till after pregnancy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think for me, barbell, of course, with the snatches specifically, I stopped those probably in the beginning of second trimester. It was very uncomfortable, the barbell scraping right against my belly. I stopped that. I would say as far as abs, not to do, I stopped GHD immediately. I didn't do those, but I did a lot of plank work, like you mentioned, a lot of knees to chest or toe to bar, if I was comfortable enough, but I did stop as well the box jumps early on and the rope climbs. I felt comfortable running. I did a lot of squatting. I was just careful with the weights. I came in and I used a lot of the rack and did work through there. If there was certain barbell movements, I maybe did front squats instead, but off of the rack. That was helpful, like the coaches accommodating their back squats for me to kind of keep my legs strong and not lose that. But that's kind of how I modified with the barbells.
I think it's important to remember, even if you feel strong, like your joints are moving, everything's moving, and it's not how you're used to it, and you could easily like pull something out of place. I mean, I remember pulling my back out doing a 95-pound clean, which is nothing for me, and I couldn't walk. My husband had to drive me home. I was in tears.
How long did it take to kind of come back from that?
I was out for at least a week. And it was, not something that would normally have happened, but because I was pregnant, everything was moving, just different.
You're a lot more like flexible and mobile, right?
I think you're hypermobile at that point, and you just have to be careful with squats, like getting caught in the bottom, and just, you really have to be careful.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple other things I thought of with just that belly gets in the way, and not just for like cleans and snatches, but even something as simple as like a squat, it kind of like affects that, that hip and pelvic area. So you might have to go like a wider stance on something like a squat. Typically, once you do have a little bit of a belly, we'll recommend people switch from like a traditional deadlift where your feet are pretty close to more of a sumo style deadlift where you get a wider stance and your arms come in. So there's ways to do, a newer movement that's correct, rather than, like Shannon was saying, doing the same movement, a clean or a snatch with a bar incorrectly, and trying to change your form. It's probably better off to just go to a new movement or a new apparatus like dumbbells or kettlebells sooner rather than later. I definitely think that's a good suggestion. Rowing's another one, trying to
Oh my
row with
gosh.
the belly.
And I
is-
kept rowing later with my like knees spread apart after the babies came out, and it was like, I gotta fix this.
Dom still tells me to stop rowing like I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like back.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's hard.
I'm glad you guys brought up the core work. One thing I did want to mention is there's a condition called Diastasis Recti, which I did some research on, is that, that's kind of a separation of that abdominal wall, and that can happen, it can happen just to anybody, whether you're pregnant or not pregnant. It's most common in pregnant women, but it can happen from, some people happen because they try to overdo the core work. They say, oh, I'm going to have a baby. I want to make sure when this baby's out, like I'm in the best shape I can be, and they try to do too much. And I think things like you mentioned, not doing GHDs, I think is super smart. I think some of the planks and some of the more like holds that there's not as many moving parts, it maybe isn't as like, you're not like trying to grunt through it or anything like that. It's a little bit more controlled. It's probably a better suggestion for that. But that's something that I would definitely check with a doctor on, for sure. So let's talk about nutrition and eating.
Oh gosh.
So what was your experience in like that with that? How do you manage all the cravings you have throughout pregnancy, being probably more hungry, and then trying to, I know all you guys are pretty health conscious, trying to have the healthiest baby possible. What's your thought process behind that?
Well, for me, I thought the hardest part for both pregnancies was the first trimester, because you are so nauseous. I was nauseous. I never actually threw up. Like Nikki had it way worse than I did, but there were certain things, like I could not eat meat for like weeks, both pregnancies. I just couldn't even look at it. There was like a period of time where all I could eat was granola. I don't even eat granola normally. Like I'm pretty paleo most of the time. So I think like the first trimester, you kind of have to go with what your body's telling you, because you don't want to get sick. But after that, I was able to, stay pretty healthy, and I didn't have bad cravings. I craved orange juice, which, big deal. And then like every now and then I would get a craving, and it was so strong, I like had to have it. Like I remember I needed a root beer, like in the worst way. And I'm like, babe, you have to get me a root beer. Had the root beer, never needed it again. Like it was like a one-time thing. But I was able to stick with it, and you just have to remember, like, this is gonna come back to bite you in the end. Like, yes, you're only getting bigger, but you don't want to add fuel to the fire. So I think staying healthy with it, you're gonna benefit from it in the long run.
Did you try to, not having that craving for meat, did you try to replace that protein? Like, did you feel like you had that deficit, or not really?
I honestly didn't care in the first few weeks, because I felt so gross and so nauseous that it was like, I literally, for like a week, only ate granola. There was a time I was eating frosted mini wheats, and Tony was like, what are you eating? Why are you eating this? I'm like, it's the only thing I can eat. I'm gonna be sick. You really can't control it at that point. But then it gets better, and then you're fine. But I couldn't eat, I love avocados. I could not look at guacamole. Like, it was just, you have to kind of do what you have to do in the beginning. It's like survival mode. And then, it gets better.
It really is survival mode. There isn't like anything you can really do about it.
You can maybe try to take vitamins or like supplements.
Well, that's, you're right. You're taking your prenatal vitamins too, and just kind of staying with that. I had my greens that I put in my water every day, so I had that.
Yeah.
But besides that, it was grilled cheese on gluten-free bread, which I hate now. I can't stand the sight of. I hated like opening the fridge, because everything in there just made me and grossed me out. And yeah, that first trimester was just, getting something in my belly so that I wouldn't be sick, and then hoping that it was like bland enough to not make me want to, throw up. After that though, I don't know. I never had any crazy cravings. Like, I do remember one morning I had Chick-fil-A. That was one morning.
Definitely not a Sunday.
Yeah, but I think that was it. Like, besides that, it wasn't, it wasn't anything. I kept thinking like, all right, this is just an excuse, and I can't use pregnancy as an excuse to like have ice cream every night, or have, something really bad. Like, I need to just, eat like as many veggies as possible, and just continue with that.
Cool. Rachel?
So yeah, a different experience for me. My first pregnancy, I felt absolutely fabulous. And I had only gained 25 pounds there. My second pregnancy with my son, I felt sick, just like with my third pregnancy in that first trimester. It's interesting because I only gained 29 pounds with him, and then I gained 37 with my third, which was the one that I was exercising with.
Yeah, but you might have still been gaining muscle.
Well, I think the other thing, my diet changed. I mean, right before I found out I was pregnant, I finally felt like I was in the groove of eating pretty healthy. And then I got pregnant, and same with you, I think both of you. I couldn't even eat meat. I was nauseous at the smell of it. Anytime Nathan would heat something up in the microwave, I mean, it was awful. I would have to go in another room. I couldn't eat. I craved carbs, probably because I watched my carbs. I mean, of course, I did have carbs prior, but I watched my carbs, so I craved carbs all the time. And I had to just eat what I could that first trimester. I think for me, some of the healthy things I would do is try to get a protein shake here and there and kind of get some greens in it and get that extra protein. But I'm sure I was lacking in protein for sure. And probably had a little too much sugar or carbs, but I did what I could.
Yeah, it sounds like it's mostly just damage control and doing what you can. And
I was so frustrated that
luckily
I
it doesn't last 9 months because then we'd be in trouble. But you know.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the kind of the mindset shift that has to happen in the gym. I know, like Rachel, you were really getting into the competitive side before this last pregnancy. I remember Shannon, you were like, I'm so close to a muscle up, and now I have to kind of like wait, this much longer to maybe attempt one again. And how do you like reset that in your mind?
It's hard. I mean, it's like it's harder to come in and work out when it's not as much fun as it is normally. It's just not. You're coming in for a different reason now. Like I always say, like it's CrossFit's so great because I'm not thinking like, oh, I have to go work out today because I have to stay in shape. I'm thinking like, I get to go work out and it's fun, and I dread the days that I can't go for whatever reason. The kids get sick, whatever. So much different from when I used to just like run on the treadmill. But when you're pregnant, it's not as much fun because you're only getting bigger, you're only getting slower, more uncomfortable. You're not getting better at anything, and you just have to remember that you're gonna be glad you did it in the long run. Like you have to just think of it as it's good for you, it's good for your baby, it's good training for like literally the hardest workout you're ever gonna do in your life when you deliver that baby, at least in my case. So that's how you have to think about it.
Cool.
It was difficult, but I think for me, I kind of got in the mind frame of, hey, this is my time to work maybe more on my form or work on certain movements. And I kind of took that path instead of, oh no, I can't do my bar muscle ups during a workout, I can't PR. And so that's what I did. I realized there's certain movements now post-pregnancy that have improved because I took my time to just go lighter and to really kind of work on the form and the movement of whatever it was. Also for me, my husband comes, and so it was just more cheering him on, like, hey, how did you do today? What PR did you hit? Or seeing all the other athletes. I remember when I first got pregnant, some of the athletes like Haley, like what she was doing initially, now a year later, where they are. And so I remember just being up on the bike or on the rower, just cheering everybody else on when they would hit their PR. And I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I had to look at it. Yes, I missed it. I missed pushing myself as hard as I could, but I knew it was what was safe, and I knew I'd be back to that eventually.
You have to remember, you're making a person.
Exactly.
Like that's awesome, and that's
and
like probably cooler than anything anyone else is doing.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And you're still working out.
And being able
Exactly.
to work out when you feel like you're gonna puke. For me, getting up, it was a lot easier because I have 2 children that I had to wake up early and get to school. So automatically I was up, and it was like, okay, just go to the gym now, quick, before you get tired. And then if I needed to nap, then I would take a little nap. But I was already up and moving, so I just forced myself to come regardless.
And you feel better after.
Exactly.
I think you need a support system
helped.
too. We're lucky. We all of our husbands are there working out with us. I was lucky enough to have my best friend pregnant with me the second time, like 16 days apart. We worked out together every day. Like whether you have a pregnant partner or a non-pregnant partner, I think you need some sort of like buddy, someone to hold you accountable, keep you motivated, someone that you have fun with, and a good support system is important.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you guys have seen it. We've had like waves of pregnant moms come through, and it's good to see that other people have gone through the same thing, and there will continue to be more waves of people going through the same thing. So you're definitely not alone doing this. Let's talk a little bit about after pregnancy. Did you guys feel like, Rachel's the only one that did sort of like a non-working out pregnancy versus one where she was working out? But based on like what doctors told you in recovery, did you guys feel like staying in shape as much as you could helped with the birth and then that post-pregnancy period in terms of recovery? And how long did it take you to get back?
Yeah, so I had a C-section, and I think the normal time to get back is like 8 weeks, and the doctor released me at about 5 weeks, and I mean, all the doctors, even like the day after at the hospital, were like so impressed that I was able to stand and walk and that I was moving so well for just having gone through this big thing. The doctor told me, she said it was definitely because I had stayed active throughout. So that was really, really big. And I think just after, I don't know, it takes time. You definitely have to have a completely different mindset, because now you have, several weeks that you can't do anything, and so going back, you're definitely you kind of feel brand new. So I kind of took the approach that Rachel took with the pregnancy, and just started working on my form with the snatches, with the clean and jerks, with basically anything with the barbell, because I knew I hadn't done that in months, and and I did really well.
Cool.
Well, I had 2 natural births, so different, recovery time. I was back, I think, like 5 weeks with both, and I was very fortunate. I didn't have stitches or anything. I had great deliveries. They were tough, but don't get me wrong, and painful. But my doctors also and nurses said, like, I was up the next day, like walking around, like, wow, and they said too, because I stayed so active, and I was just so happy to get back. Like, I did feel like I never worked out before in my life those first 2 weeks. I remember, Andrew, you were like, scaled me back like on a workout. You're like, I don't want you to end up with rhabdo, and you just feel like, oh my gosh, but I've been doing CrossFit for so long. But 5 weeks off is a big deal following 9 months of pregnancy. So I was just so happy to be back in my routine and be around my friends again, that it's just exciting. And after, a couple months, you feel like, oh yeah, like I feel like I'm getting my groove back. And I felt like around 4 to 5 months, I really felt like myself again. Like I could see definition again, and was back in my old clothes. So definitely quick, I felt.
For me, after my first, actually, she was vaginal delivery, and then my second and third were both C-sections. So I had a little different experience. I didn't work out after that first or second, but as far as after my third, who knows how I would feel after that second C-section if I wasn't working out. For me, I didn't really take any pain medication. I took a couple doses of Motrin because I was just uncomfortable. I was ready to drive before the 2 weeks, but I didn't. I was going stir crazy in the house. I remember coming back to the gym at 4 weeks, but what I did is I just sat on the assault bike and I slowly biked, and that was about it. And then I took maybe 10-pound dumbbells, if that, and just sat and did seated dumbbell presses. I just really did extremely light. I did nothing with my core. I remember really taking my time when I came back, just listened to my body. I didn't squat right away. I used a bench and or a box, and I used that to squat initially on, just to feel comfortable. I really took my time, especially with the barbell. I'm still working my way up, and it's been 6 months. Probably just more, nervous about it now at this point. But a different experience. I wonder how I would feel if I didn't, because, I lost the weight with my other 2 pregnancies, but I just gained it back quickly. I'm almost there. I've almost lost all the weight, but for me, it's probably more my diet at this point. Honestly, because I'm coming about 6 to 7 days, and it's probably more my diet right now.
It's so hard.
Yeah, one thing that I've talked to a few moms about is the breastfeeding post-pregnancy, and trying to kind of balance getting your pre-baby body back with that breastfeeding, making sure you have that milk supply, and have you guys, what experiences do you have with that? Anything that you saw that was like good or bad for that? I don't know if all you guys did that or not, but.
Well, I know, I always heard that breastfeeding, you like lose weight really fast, and burn all these calories, and like, for me, it was opposite. Like when I was nursing, I swear my body held on to like an extra 10 pounds of fat because it needed that fat to like make the milk and feed my baby, and that was fine. And I noticed when I stopped, I like leaned out like big time. So, I'm sure it's different for everyone, but I think you just have to be patient in that case. If you are holding on to a little bit of extra weight, it could be, the breastfeeding.
I think you're right about the patience. That's the biggest thing. I mean, they say it takes 9 months. It's really 10 to build this baby. And, I think most women want to get back like right away and see results. And, the truth is like, it's, your body is just made a human. Like you need to give yourself some time. And I've lost, I think I've lost it all by now. I'm still breastfeeding, so it's hard to say like, I know I have a few extra pounds still, but I don't know, it's been good. I try not to cheat too much because I feel like I'm just, burning the calories with the breastfeeding. So I try to still like stick to a healthy diet. I did a Whole30 and that was good, it was helpful. But I did find that when I restricted my calories too much, it was affecting my milk supply. So I couldn't just say, all right, now all of a sudden I'm gonna eliminate carbs altogether, because that's, it just doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, I think I have probably about 8 more pounds, and I'm wondering if breastfeeding at this point, I'm strictly breastfeeding, nursing, and with my first 2, like I said, I didn't gain more than 29 pounds. So I lost that first 30 with this third one right away. And then there's that remaining, 8, 9 stubborn, but I'm breastfeeding strictly. So
there's not much you can do.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend where I think with the breastfeeding, it may help you lose that initial like 80% of what you're trying to lose, but that last 10 to 20%, I think you kind of have to wait until after that. I've seen that with a lot of moms. It just seems to be the standard case. So cool. Did you guys have anything else to add? No? Cool.
Stick with it.
Yeah,
Just be patient with yourself. Be really, really kind to yourself, because there's days when you're gonna feel like crap. And you're just gonna you're like, man, like I didn't do much of anything today. But just, coming in and staying consistent, and even when you don't feel like it, you're gonna feel so much better after.
Yeah,
I think as Andrew said, just remember, at least from, I think in all 3 of our cases, we all had pretty much healthy pregnancies. So for us, we were able to come in and continue working out. I think the most important thing is to speak to your obstetrician, prior. And the other big issue is I was already into CrossFit, working out heavily prior, about 6 to 7 days a week. I don't suggest suddenly just starting CrossFit until you become pregnant.
Don't start it,
So that's the other thing you have to take into consideration, the fact that we were already exercising multiple days a week and we had healthy pregnancies.
I do think if you are thinking about getting pregnant, find something now that you enjoy doing for your workout, because if you're not enjoying your workout not pregnant, you're really not going to enjoy it pregnant, I can tell you. So get into the groove of something that you like, whether it's CrossFit, whatever it is, and get comfortable with it now.
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to give a shout out to doctors. We have Dr. Melendi who works out at our 5 and 6 a.m. class, who a lot of the moms go to, and then Dr. Brown works out another local CrossFit gym. So if you are looking for someone who kind of understands your situation, you're already doing CrossFit or Beach Fit, and you want someone that's going to kind of work with you and really understand your situation, it may be worth it to check out one of them. But that's it. Thank you for joining us, ladies. Appreciate it.
Good luck.